Yay! And they are here. Welcome to the Korea Society. It is so great to see all of you here tonight, and a very special welcome to those of you joining us online on this live webcast from our event space in New York. And tonight we are talking about K-pop, the Broadway musical inspired by the global music phenomenon. As K-pop superstars put everything on the line for a special one-night-only concert, they face struggles, both cultural and personal, that threaten to dismantle one of the industry's hottest labels. That is the premises of K-pop, the musical, featuring a cast of the actual K-pop stars, as well as the musical theater professionals, 18 of them making the Broadway debut. K-pop is now in previews at the Circle in the Square Theater on Broadway. Now, K-pop also has the distinction of being the first musical on Broadway celebrating Korean culture, and it is the third Broadway musical that highlights API heritage with API representation in the cast. But on this musical, behind the creative team as well. So joining me on the stage tonight is Helen Park, one of that creative team. She wrote the music and lyrics, as well as music in charge of music production and arrangements. And two of the cast members, Kevin Woo, who plays Jun Hyuk, the leader of the boy group Fate, and that is F8 for you. And Boyoung, who plays Tiny, a member of the girl group Artemis, spelled RTMIS. So, welcome to the Korea Society, everyone. It's so great to have you here. A quick reminder to our viewers and also to the audience members, you will have a chance to ask your own questions this evening later. We already have many questions coming in online. So if you're joining us online, please send your questions via email to artsandculture@koreasociety.org. So K-pop has been in previews for what now, 10 days?
Yeah, woo! Oh my God. Can't believe time is flying by so quickly these days.
Yeah. So how has it been? How about we start with you, Helen, to see this amazing cast on stage every night?
It's been incredible. I mean, I feel like I'm the most privileged person on earth, being able to watch this amazing cast, like, pour everything onto the stage every night, and also just the fact that they're singing, the songs that I've been working on for the past 8 years. Like, I feel like 99% of my job is like just being in my room, just like just on my computer, like imagining, and to see them bring out to the stage like things that are actually way more amazing than what I imagined is really breathtaking, and it's just really surreal.
How about you, Kevin?
I feel like I'm living a dream every day. Living my best K-pop life on stage, on Broadway. Actually, for me, it's one of my dreams come true to perform on Broadway. And it feels surreal, like what Helen said, to see so many diverse audiences coming in from all over New York, all over the country, even abroad to see this musical. And it's really exciting to share that same passion with the audience because they've never seen a musical like this before. And especially to have like a K-pop concert and also a musical blended together, I think it's a match made in heaven.
And Boyoung, I know you probably went through a lot of changes to be here. So how has it been to be in New York?
네. 저는 지금까지 여정에서 뭐 힘든 것도 있지만 사실 언어적인 부분이 가장 어렵긴 했는데 이제 연습을 다 마치고 하루하루 지금 무대에 서고 있는데 커튼 콜 때 계속 울컥하는 거예요. 이 우리가 함께 여기까지 온 이 과정과 또 그 안에서 느끼는 동지애 그리고 뭐 이렇게 서로를 아끼면서 사랑하게 되는 마음이 생기고 그러면서 하루하루 감동적인 나날을 보내고 있어요.
For me, there were several hardships, but the language part must be the number one hardship I had to go through. But every night when I perform at the curtain call, my heart moves and I get touched by thinking about our friendship and the loving minds that we had throughout the whole process. So every day the performance is very heartwarming to me.
So K-pop may have been on Broadway just for a little less than a couple of weeks, but there is a long history of how it got to be here at this point. So of course there was the 2017 off-Broadway run, but that means Helen, you and other creative team behind this show started even many years before that working on this show. So take us back, as you said, 7 years ago, when it all began. When did you and Jason and Max and all the other creative team started to think about this musical?
So we go back to 2014, and I just graduated from graduate program at NYU. There's a graduate musical theater writing program at NYU, and I had just graduated. And actually, Ars Nova at the time, the off-Broadway theater, was actually planning a K-pop musical because they had met Jason Kim, our writer, and Teddy Bergman, the director, and they both had just this like vague idea that like they want to make a musical out of the K-pop phenomenon, but they didn't really have like a story figured out or anything. But they just had this idea, and Ars Nova really loved that idea, and they wanted to produce this.
Cool.
So they started sort of like looking for composers, and that's when I came into the picture. I met with Teddy Bergman, and he was telling me about this project. And he was like, "Do you love K-pop music?" And I was like, "Yes." I grew up with K-pop music. I was already a fan of Kevin's. Like I remember your debut. I was like, I just K-pop has always been like home for me, and also as a musician, K-pop was kind of like guilty pleasure. Something that I love, but I knew that it's not a career path. Like it's not like I'm like having a. I didn't like have K-pop set as like a career goal, but musical theater was a passion of mine. I wanted to pursue it as a career, and just to have like that opportunity to marry the both of my loves, very different, like my guilty pleasure and like my my love, musical theater. It was such a miracle to me, and so I was like, all I could think was, I'm going to grab this opportunity and make it mine.
And you did.
Yes,
You absolutely did.
yeah. I mean, we started out with like they had many composers, and I actually music directed our first workshop at Ars Nova, where we were just like trying out all these songs from various composers, and we had Jen Weber choreograph all these different numbers, and yeah, like it was like a really fun experiment. But then after that, everyone realized that we need like a cohesive score, and that's when the team narrowed down to the current team that we have now. But yes, that was the beginning, and we went through a lot of process together to figure out the story, and it definitely evolved throughout the years because K-pop also evolved, and also how people view K-pop and Korean culture has evolved throughout the years. So we had a journey, but yeah, we're here now.
So it's really interesting thing because you are talking about this very specific music genre, but also musical has to tell a story. And then you're writing lyrics, and just like many K-pop songs, your lyric combines both English and Korean. And a lot of the actors speak both Korean and English on the stage. So what was the challenge trying to tell this very particular story through both languages and have non-Koreans be able to follow the whole thing?
Yeah, actually, I have to admit, in the beginning, when I was writing the show, I was like very scared. I was like, really, like, would Americans like really would they be engaged in throughout the whole song if they're Korean lyrics? Like, people like to understand everything, but Ars Nova was very encouraging authenticity, and I mean, I definitely wanted to bring the most authentic K-pop to the theater scene here in New York, and so but I can't deny that the fact that I was scared because like I have this experience living in America and Canada actually before I moved to America, that I've been living with so many stereotypes and preconceptions, and uh, it's hard to ignore that, and just be bold with my authenticity, but I did it, and then the response was actually incredible. Actually, also the process of writing these songs was a little bit different than what one would go through in writing a K-pop song, because I was aware of the New York theater audience, which is mostly middle-aged white men, and I wanted to create music that speaks to anybody. There's a universal quality in music, and especially pop music, which I think is so incredible. Like, it's inviting and accessible. And what I wanted to do with music, especially, more so than lyrics, was to create this melody and, the combination of melody and harmony and rhythm, groove. I wanted to create a combination that speaks to audience who, no matter what language they speak. And so that whenever there are Korean lyrics, other elements can still speak to the audience's hearts, and to create a score that the audience can still understand every moment of the story. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And I have to say, one of my favorite, there are many favorite moments in this musical, but one of my favorite moment was the second act when the boy group actually head on. I'm not going to reveal what it is because you guys have to go see and find out. But when they actually head on, address that issue of speaking Korean and English together. So I thought that was a really great moment in the whole show. But then again, I also have to say I did see the off-Broadway version in 2017. So that's a very different show from what is on Broadway right now. So what was sort of the biggest challenge of translating that sort of really truly immersive type of experience that can only work sort of in the off-Broadway setting to bring it to the Broadway and turn it into a Broadway show?
Yeah, for me, I love the immersive experience, because there's a lot to see, and like there's a lot of rooms that people would, go through, and um, yeah, it was spectacular, and there were a lot of visual elements that were intriguing to the audience. But what I got the most excited about in that production was the opportunity to show the complex emotions of various humans in the K-pop community, and like the Asian community, and the opportunity to get people to see how we're actually, after all, not that different from one another. And I had this desire to really just focus on that. And when this opportunity for a Broadway transfer came to us, I was like, yes. Like, I love the immersive elements, but I also know that we don't need that to tell our story. And I wanted to, I was really excited about the possibility of the audience just sitting and just focusing on that emotional journey. And so what we went through, in making these changes from Ars Nova production to here, it was really, I mean, also throughout those couple years, like, so 2017 and 2022, like, it's such a different world now.
It is.
In terms of like how people view K-pop, but also, how people are viewing authenticity, and like, people, throughout the pandemic as well, like, people really started embracing the Asian identity, and really thinking about like what forms our identity, and like how we really stay true to our identity. And so like a lot of value is put into that, and like which is like what I was wanting anyway. So yeah, I think we really try to dig deeper into what that authentic experience is, and I think that's also why we were really interested in getting actual, K-pop stars who went through such, unique experience
Yeah.
of being K-pop stars, and and training to become K-pop stars, and all of that, um, extraordinary journey. And yeah, I think that's like the biggest change that we made since Ars Nova.
So then, how is it for you, Kevin and Boyoung? I'm gonna ask Kevin first. What is it like to, as a K-pop star, come to Broadway and play a K-pop star?
Well, basically, it's a story about my life. Yeah, it's really no different from my own experiences in K-pop, and they've really done a wonderful job creating this masterpiece of a story. And not only does it highlight the struggles and like the truth about how we trained in that space, it also brings light into a lot of different other aspects that the story touches. And I can't go too far into the story, but yeah, I feel like the audience would really leave feeling like energized from the songs, but also deeply moved by how much work and how much effort we've put into our craft. And yeah, for me, doing K-pop and now being on a Broadway show, I feel like I've been training this whole time to be on Broadway because 8 shows a week is like a lot of shows. And in K-pop, when we do tours, we would do like almost the same amount of work. So I feel like for me, it's not too foreign to perform on a Broadway stage. But I think like with the training I've had, it's just very organic for me, the transition. So.
And how about you, Boyoung, coming from Korea? What has been the most sort of, other than the language barrier, what has been the most difficult part?
저는 지금 여기서 다시 걸그룹으로 데뷔하는 느낌이 들어요. 그래서 정말 좋은 이 멤버들과 아르테미스 멤버들과 정말 좋은 추억을 쌓고 있고, 네, 데뷔해서 그때 뭐 20대 초반 때 그런 느낌을 다시 받고 있어요. 제가 약간 인터뷰 울렁증이 있어가지고. 네.
It feels like I'm redebuting as a girl group on Broadway, and also I'm focusing on making good memories with the members in Artemis, and it brings me back to my early 20s memories.
So, what has been the biggest challenge of on Broadway? How is it different for you as a performer to sort of, you said it seems very organic, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's also different challenges. What has been the most difficult thing, and what could be the biggest reward for you for this
Ooh,
to
okay,
go
so the
through
biggest
this
challenge and the
experience?
biggest reward. Okay. I mean, honestly, there weren't too many challenges. It was a really, really fun process for me. I've auditioned, when was that? In 2019 now? It was before the pandemic, but it feels like such a long time. But ever since I've auditioned and then did the first workshop last year in December, I think the hardest challenge was being away from my home because I'm from Seoul and like I also live in LA. So being in New York for a long period of time, that was like the biggest struggle. But but for the musical itself, I feel like yeah, it's a K-pop show. It's about K-pop, and the songs are very much the K-pop genre. But the delivery was very different from what I'm used to, because the story is something that's prioritized. People need to understand what the story is and what the message we're trying to portray. And following the story and also looking cool and sexy and all of that together was a quite of a task for me that I had to really learn, and that was like my biggest homework, to focus on how I'm going to deliver a message while being my K-pop self. Yeah.
How about you, Boyoung?
가장 힘든 점과 가장 보상 긴 점.
저는 솔직히 힘든 거는 하나도 못 느끼고 있고요. 배우는 게 굉장히 많아요. 저는 지금 뮤지컬이 처음이고 또 꿈의 무대 브로드웨이에서 데뷔를 하게 됐고 그리고 팀원들이 정말 가르쳐 주는 게 굉장히 많아요. 그래서 하루하루 배우는 것도 많고 뭐 감사한 언니 저 어떡해요. 여러분
너무 잘하고 있어.
네. 정말 이 K-팝 뮤지컬을 통해서 다양한 기회들을 제가 긴장했나 봐요.
She's very nervous.
Nervous.
I mean,
Yeah.
I saw you on the stage. This is nothing compared to what you do on the stage.
그러니까요.
For me, there's not that much challenges. I'm learning a lot from my teammates every day, and this is my first musical, and to debut on Broadway is a really big thing. Each day is a learning experience for me, and from this opportunity, I hope to gain more opportunities in Broadway.
And so, Kevin, one of your fans actually asked before, did you have to give any advice to other cast members who are not K-pop stars? How to behave like the K-pop stars? Or then also, what did you learn from other sort of the Broadway actors?
Yes.
About being in a Broadway show?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm learning so much too in this process. Like you mentioned, there's also Broadway actors in our production, and there's also K-pop stars like me. And there's like a very wide spectrum. So we were all learning so many things from each other, honestly. And for me, the biggest advice that I gave to my Fate members was. There's a lot. First of all, like the performance, like we go through an intense amount of training for our show, and getting the choreograph and everything down, that's already set. We do that many hours a day. But I always tell them it's in the face. You know, you could be dancing as much as you can, but be looking at the floor and not giving any delivery. But when that spotlight is on you, you got to deliver with your eyes. And that was my biggest advice to the Fate members. And they're actually really killing it on stage. And also another big advice was when we do our insa, as a group, we all have like our individual greeting. And that moment is your moment. So when we were going through just like the rehearsals, everyone was just saying it like a line, like 안녕하세요 준영입니다, 안녕하세요 팀 X입니다. But like when you're in an actual K-pop group, you have so many fans, like individual members for the members. So when you say your name, you got to say it with like all of your character and your personality has to show in that one like 2 seconds. So that's the advice I gave to them, to really own that moment, because each and every member is a star. And that really makes Artemis and Fate really shine in this musical. Everyone is so talented.
Right?
Yeah. And what was the reward? The reward has got to be after the show. So when we go out of the theater, all the fans are waiting to get a glimpse of us, to say hi or either get an autograph. But when I see kids in the audience that are just like crying or like saying like this was the first musical Broadway or first K-pop show that they've ever seen, like we're like introducing such a new world to them at such a young age, and we're giving them hope, and we're giving them so many opportunities, like for kids like them to dream whatever they want to dream, when they get older. So every night when I see that, it's just the biggest reward for me personally. Yeah. We're like planting little seeds. Yeah.
Speaking of sowing those seeds, then Helen, what was the creative team's sort of mission or goal for writing this, and what was kind of thing that you wanted to tell the audience about K-pop?
Well, I can't speak for others in my team, but for me, when I was growing up, K-pop was pop music. So, American kids have Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears. for me, it was HOT. It was Fly to the Sky was my bias. And
Brian is coming tomorrow.
oh my god. Well, I like Fanny, but and yeah, Boa was like Britney Spears, and not just that. I had love for K ballads. I loved like Kim Dong-ryul, Lee Sora.
Yeah,
When
oh my
I was
God.
I was studying in Canada by myself in high school, like away from family. My family was in Korea, and all I had were these CDs that are K-pop albums, and I just would listen to them on repeat. Like that was my home, and that was something that understood me the best, and I wanted to share that so badly with like my Western friends. And when K-pop became sort of a little bit known, like around the time I started this show, 2014, yeah, all people knew about K-pop was like Gangnam Style by Psy, and or like just couple like really like kind of like out there like weird like kind of music videos, like so girl groups are just kind of weird, or like boy groups are just like feminine and nothing much to it. Like there were a lot of generalizations about K-pop because people just didn't know, and they didn't have access to it, and it was just like all very new and exotic. And so I was so determined with this show to show that this is so much more than that. And I wanted to share K-pop that is what K-pop is to me. I wanted it to be the same thing for others. So that was my mission, and that meant me really working on my craft even harder than ever before. I really was determined to make sure that my music production is tight. Like I really made it my mission to not make the K-pop genre, not. I wanted to represent it right, and I wanted to pay tribute to it, and not the other way around. I really wanted to do a good job, and that was my mission. And I hope that people can feel my love for K-pop through this score.
You are.
So, what has been something that completely caught you by surprise during this process? Something that you never expected to sort of, discover or do, or was the storyline always gonna be sort of gonna be like this, or were you surprised by anybody saying, "Oh, I really like that song over versus that one"? Was there any surprising moment for you that you didn't know that would might happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think after the Art Silver production in 2017, what really surprised me was, the number of people who don't speak Korean at all come to me and say, the songs moved them, and they were, in tears because they felt understood. And I was very surprised because like I said, I was insecure about the fact that like this is a very new like bilingual show, you know, and yet to find that people felt understood by the combination of the English and Korean lyrics and the music, that made me realize that music is a universal language, and it really transcends language. And people have these a lot of thoughts about pop music, right? People think, oh, it's like just like like people think less of pop music sometimes, but actually it provides space for people to insert their own experience, and it's very inviting. It's not, it doesn't tell you how to feel. It actually invites you to feel whatever you want to feel. And I think that speaks to more audiences than anything else. And I think that's what really surprised me, and also made me feel so like it made me feel like I did something right. Yeah, it was an incredible feeling.
So, Kevin and Boyoung, So Helen beautifully described what K-pop meant to her when she was growing up. What did K-pop mean to you when you were growing up? And when did you decide that this is what you're gonna do? Because I mean, as everybody knows, and it's shown in the show, it's a huge commitment.
Yeah, it is.
So what was it like for you?
So I was born and raised in San Francisco, in the outskirts, a very suburban neighborhood called Danville. And that's where, I was born and raised, not really familiar with a lot of Korean culture, Korean music. I mean, I spoke Korean in the household because my parents were obviously Korean and they taught us the Korean ways and the traditions. But when we were at school and outside with our friends, we would kind of neglect that side of us, trying not to. Mm, it was kind of difficult because there weren't as many Korean Americans like me in my school. So when I first heard Korean music, it was through like Music Bank. It was like a very popular. It still is existing. It's a very popular Korean like award show, performance
Right.
show, and I just caught a glimpse of that after my mom was watching a K drama, and it was after school, and I watched Rain, and I was just mind blown by his performance, his stage like presence, like everything was. I was just like in awe, and so I looked him up and I begged my mom to go to the Korean CD shops. At that time, there were no streaming platforms or YouTube, so I really dug deep into Rain, and then that led me into other K-pop groups at that time, like TVXQ, like 동방신기, and BoA. Seven, God, so many. I could the list can go on, but that's how I got introduced, like in early middle school, and then I found a passion in singing. When I was singing along with those songs, I felt like I had a voice, and it was weird because I didn't understand Korean at that age. I just read the romanization and like memorized it by heart. And sometimes it would be like the saddest heartbreak song, and then I was singing to my mom. It's like, how do you know those emotions? You know, but it just came out naturally. And so I started to find auditions happening in America, like JYP, SM, like those big companies would come to America to do like the global auditions. So I did a few, and I also did one in Korea um, when I was 15 years old. And that was the pivotal moment in my life. That's when everything changed from being a freshman in high school to doing tours around the globe in Korea. And that journey was something that, I can't even explain. It was a very, very unique journey, but also so special to me because I was representing my country, my heritage, to also my audiences in America. So it was like K-pop meant everything to me. Yeah, I think for me, K-pop is my identity. Yeah, that's how I like to explain it. Yeah.
살아면서 K-팝이 본인이 가졌던 의미와 언제 K-팝
음.
가수가 되고 싶었던 계기.
저는 사실 이렇게 어렸을 때 학창 시절 때 이렇게 손 한번 들어서 발표를 못했을 정도로 내성적이고 되게 조용한 아이였는데요. 제가 그 시절에 들었던 핑클, SES, 또 보아 선배님의 이런 희망적인 메시지를 담은 곡들을 들으면서 혼자 노래를 흥얼거릴 때 되게 그 안에서 자유로움을 표현하는 거에 있어서 거리낌이 없고 또 자유로움을 느꼈고 내가 받았던 그런 좋은 영향력을 나 또한 훗날 누군가에게 전할 수 있는 그런 가수가 되고 싶다는 꿈을 꾸게 된 것 같아요. 그게 제가 중학교 2학년 때 저도. 네. 그래서 K-팝은 저에게 가수의 꿈을 키우게 해준 그런 가수의 꿈을 꾸게 해줬고요. 그 다음 또 뭐였죠? 네. 그렇습니다.
When I was young, I was very introverted and quiet. but listening to songs from Pinkle and SES and hearing the positive messages and humming to those songs, I really felt freedom. And later on, I wanted to sort of deliver and share that kind of positive emotions I had. And that's how I dreamt of becoming a singer.
Great. So we're gonna go to the audience question soon. We have somebody, but before we go, I did wanted to ask you quickly, what's your favorite K-pop song?
Oh.
And what's your favorite song from the show? It does not have to be something you sing.
Okay.
But why don't we start with you, Helen?
My favorite K-pop song? I have too many.
Yeah, right. Wait, at the moment or just
At the moment, let's say at the
okay,
moment.
that makes it a little
Yeah.
easier.
Well, I like NCT right now.
Ah.
I like Favorite. I think there's like a parentheses Vampire by NCT 127.
So good.
And from our show, I think my favorite song.
No pressure. You know, Artemis and Fate.
I have to say, oh, actually, my proudest song I would say is America.
Oh.
It's America with a K. Just because I'm a woman, and that it's like that was a song where I really challenged myself to bring out the most masculine and just like war zone. I put a lot of effort into that one. So yeah.
If you haven't seen the musical yet, you're
Come
for a
check out
treat.
America.
Yeah,
Yes,
you'll see
America,
it. You'll
the
see-
uniform and the performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin is amazing.
Yeah, we worked very hard on that one.
How about you, Kevin? What's your favorite K-pop song?
At the moment, I am into this new girl group called New Jeans. And I really like a song called Hype Boy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really catchy. But yeah, my favorite song in the musical K-pop has got to be Super Goddess from Artemis.
Oh.
Okay, so backstage when I'm getting ready for our next song after Artemis, we are all glued to the screen. Just every night we're just like, because it's so powerful. It's an Artemis song, and like the title, they look like super goddesses on stage. They are so. I feel like I just like want to. They're untouchable on stage. The performance, the looks, the vocals, the ranges that you've created in this
Like
song.
she sings
like her,
crazy
is-
high.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite song in the musical.
Cool.
네. 저는 저희 그룹 스피카의 투나잇을 정말 좋아합니다. 못 들어보신 분이 있다면 꼭 들어보셨으면 좋겠습니다. 굉장히 희망차고요. 네, 파이팅 넘치는 곡이고 저희 뮤지컬 안에서 좋아하는 곡은 This is my Korea 좋아합니다.
Such a special song.
네, 제일
Opening number of our
네.
show.
Yeah. Which we performed on Good Morning America.
Yes.
My favorite song is my group Speak Us Tonight. And I'll recommend it to people who haven't heard it before. It's very bright and hopeful. And out of the musical K-pop, This Is My Career is my favorite song, which is the opening number of the show.
Great. So we're gonna go to the audience questions. Somebody will bring mic to you.
Thank you so much for your insight. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And since we are talking about two icons of entertainment, thinking Broadway and K-pop, are you thinking to take this creation into to Korea, for example, that has a musical industry too? How is that a relationship in that equation?
Yes, anything's possible, right? Anything's possible
Yes,
in the
we
future.
would love that. Yeah.
We have a question over there. Right over there.
Hi, I saw it last week. Incredible. It's
Thank you for
I mean, it's a
coming.
perfect blend of K-pop and musical theater. And as a former musical theater performer and a newer lover of K-pop, it's perfect. I'm curious about the casting of the K-pop idols. If you could talk a little bit about how you found them and why them, and for them, for Boyoung and Kevin, do you find you're both incredible vocalists? My God, if you have listen to Speak Up. My God, it's her Boyoung's vocal insane.
Yes,
Uh,
I agree.
do you find you had to change your vocals around for musical theater, to use a different method or anything like that?
Sure.
Oh,
first question.
Casting?
yeah, in terms of casting, we went wild. I mean, we had an incredible casting, a casting team who were searching all over America, but also, you know, I also like DM'd.
The power of Instagram.
Yes, like I messaged Luna, hoping that she'll respond. Yeah, and emailed, and I know Bohyung like was also reached out by our team through Instagram. Thanks, Instagram. But yeah, we were determined to just at least reach out to these K-pop stars and hope that they will respond. And here we are with the best cast that we could ever ask for. It's really, truly a perfect cast.
Oh.
So I'm just grateful. Yeah.
And we're so grateful too to have been the lucky ones to get chosen.
I mean, also like not just the K-pop idols, like we have like Broadway stars and also just like newfound, like we have our youngest member, 18-year-old Kate Mina Lin, who we found like when she was 15, and she's like someone I'm just like so excited about, and so proud of to share with the world. And so yeah, the whole like the blend of these diverse Asians and Koreans in our cast is something I'm really, really proud of.
So about Kevin and Boyoung, was there any switch you had to make in terms of your vocal style?
Yeah, so for me personally, I've done quite a few musicals in Korea and Japan. So I know, what it's like to, be a bit more on the musical side of my vocal, and then also the K-pop, the pop side. But especially for this musical, preparing for it, I would say it's more on the K-pop side speaking for Fate at least. For us, our numbers are very performance driven, and there's a lot of dancing. There's a lot of upbeat songs to our performances. So I would say it's very much more relatable to the K-pop side. So for me personally, I didn't have much like hardships preparing for it, but I don't want to speak too much because Helen is right next to me and she's our music director. So maybe I don't know. Was there a big difference in like training Fate for like a musical style?
I would always just say like just do what Kevin's doing. I mean, Kevin influenced my, music, and so I think it was like a collaboration.
It was a collaboration, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing something completely new on Broadway, and without, people like Kevin's help, like, it could be way more difficult, and we're just trying to find that sweet spot between K-pop and Broadway, and I think we're pretty close.
Yeah. I would say so too.
저 같은 경우는 좀 호흡이 많이 새는 목소리인데 뮤지컬 이제 하게 되면서 연습하는 과정 속에서 뭔가 소리가 시원하게 뻗지 못하는 걸 알게 됐어요. 그래서 한국에서 6개월 동안 오기 전에 벨팅 창법에 대한 트레이닝을 쭉 받고 왔고 그 트레이닝을 훈련을 통해서 지금 굉장히 많은 도움을 얻고 있어요. 무대에서. 소리를 좀 직선으로 낼 수 있게 됐습니다. 네.
So for me, while practicing for the musical, I realized is that I needed to focus more on my belting. So before coming to New York City, I took belting lessons for about 6 months, and now I'm learning how to let my voice out more directly and straight.
Yeah, projection.
I haven't seen the musical yet, but I'm so curious when you talked about the audience, the demographics. I imagine that a Broadway audience is very different from a K-pop audience. And I'm guessing from the stage design, like I guess the audience is sort of implicated in it. So how have you found the Broadway audience responding? Like, do they become a K-pop audience? Or, just speaking to that a bit.
Or do you want to just tell them like just get up and dance like sometimes?
I mean, for me, because I'm in the audience every day, I see and feel, the audience next to me. And what I found was very interesting. Like, the K-pop fans, a lot of like Clovers, like, and Boyoung's fans would come and, they would just like, this is like what they love already. And they're just like ready to be like, woo! And like, yeah, like Kevin, Boyoung. And, that's so like incredible to watch, and that also like that feels like validation of like this, the show that, okay, this is something that K-pop fans appreciate.
Yeah.
And then I see like Broadway fans who just like come here and be like, okay, new Broadway musical. What's this like? And then by the end though, in the concert, everybody's just like, everybody's just like having the time of their lives. So it's incredible to see them like kind of unified. Like it's like, oh, I get you and you get me kind of thing by the end of the show, which has been really fun to watch. Yeah. So like, there was.
For folks who are new to New York, how has been your experience in New York City so far? Did you enjoy it? Do you think it's better than Seoul? Worse? I'm just kind of curious what your experience has been so far.
Hi. Hello. Yeah, thank you for your question. So yeah, it's my first time living in New York. I was born and raised in San Francisco, moved to Korea, lived in Tokyo for a few years, and then moved to LA last year. Lots of cities, but New York has got to be one of the most fast-paced cities that I've lived in. So I thought Seoul was fast-paced, and it very much is, but New York is on a different level. And I've learned so much just living here for the past 2 months, just like the work ethic and how much passion people have and how straightforward people are, which I appreciate. And I'm learning a lot about myself too, living in this city, because there's so much going on, there's so much diversity, and there's, left and right, there's so much stimulation. It's easy to get lost. But for me, I found a home, luckily, to K-pop, and I, with the cast and people who have lived in the city, I've learned a lot from them as well. And I think I'm becoming a much stronger person in New York, which I definitely needed. But yeah, I love the food scene and the weather. Getting kind of scared of the upcoming winter. But
You'll be so busy.
we'll be in the
yeah,
theater
yeah.
every day, so I think we'll be good.
네, 저도 케빈이랑 같은 느낌을 받고 있는데요. 이제 바쁘게 움직이는 사람들도 밤새 꺼지지 않은 불빛 그리고 막 이런 바쁜 바이브가 나는 잘 맞나 보다 이런 걸 느끼고 있어요. 그래서 항상 같은 시간에 출근하고 퇴근하고 이런 이제 패턴으로 삶을 살본 적이 없기 때문에 너무 잘 맞고 사랑하게 된 것 같아요. 이 뉴욕이라는 도시를.
Wow.
For me, it's really similar to Kevin's experience and the busy vibes and the city that never sleeps. I think I fit really well here, and I'm starting to really fall in love with the city.
Wow.
We've got a couple hundred people tuning in online from around the world, which is really cool, and they've been sending in questions, so I thought we could ask a couple of theirs. One is from somebody named Wacky Cashew in Canada. For Helen. Hi, Helen. It must be amazing to have taken the reins of being the composer, lyricist, and music producer for Kpop Broadway the Musical. Congratulations. What was the biggest surprise for you while working on this project?
Oh, thank you. And also it's great to hear from Canada because I used to live there. Yeah, I mean, the biggest surprise, I think that I come across surprises like every single day. And yesterday, actually, I brought my kids, I have 2 kids, to the show for the first time. And I was surprised to see how much they love the songs, and also just it was really eye-opening. I mean, we say like, we are doing this for the next generation and whatnot because it is like sort of the first show of its kind, but just to really hear that from my own child, that like she wants to be in K-pop when she grows up. And she said if it still exists. and yeah, to really hear that, and I felt like, it really being a genuine, a genuine response, that really surprised me and also made me feel like, oh, this is something much bigger than just me writing something out of my guilty pleasure. So that was, yeah, that was great.
And we've got another, and this is for everybody. Do you feel a big responsibility on your shoulders to be ambassadors of Korean culture to people who are trying to learn or have never been exposed to it? And that's from somebody named Christy Lugo.
Ooh, I try not to let that pressure get to me, because if you sort of start thinking in that sense, your shoulders get quite heavy. But I like to think of it as I'm enjoying every day, every performance. Whenever I'm on stage, like that's my happy place. And when I could be happy at what I'm doing and also delivering a great message and influence to people who don't know K-pop and the Korean culture, I feel like it's like a double win for me. Yeah. Thank you.
한국 문화가 낯선 이곳의 사람들에게 책임감을 너무 긴장돼.
Kind of a deep question.
Yeah, it's a
진짜 생각이 안 나네요.
아니면 그런 책임감의 부담을 느끼고 있는지.
아니요, 부담은 전혀 느끼고 있지 않아요. 지금 K-팝이 어쨌든 전 세계적으로 많은 사랑을 받고 있고 또 뮤지컬로는 처음 관객분들을 만나는 거기 때문에 책임감보다는 그냥 이제 보러 와주신 관객분들과 정말 음악 안에서 그냥 자연스럽게 소통하고 정말 온전히 즐기면 그걸로 너무 긴장되네요.
No, that's perfect.
잘했어.
That's perfect.
네.
No pressure. K-pop is a global phenomenon that is being loved globally, and this is the first time that it is being introduced to the audience in a musical form. And if the audience comes and naturally enjoys the show, that's it.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're out of time.
Oh,
So
already?
I know. So, well, Helen, Kevin, and Bohyun, congratulations on your Broadway debut.
If you haven't seen it already, I'll see you at Circle in the Square Theater.
Yes. Helen, we can't wait to hear more music from you. And Bohyun and Kevin, as they say, break a leg every
Thank
night.
you.
K-pop is in previews at the Circle in the Square Theater on Broadway. Visit our website, koreasociety.org, to get a very special discount code, if you haven't seen it, to go to one of those preview performances before it opens on November 20th. So, because, after that, who knows what's going to happen. So, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Thank you.